Good morning, folks. This coming weekend is it's Good Shepherd weekend, and also it's at three of the masses. It's also First Communion Sunday, so there's, in a sense, you could say there's a lot going on. So I will be preaching at the First Communion masses. So for that reason, I think on Sunday I'll bring along my famous little lamb here, who's known as Dolly, so that the kids can see what a real live lamb looks like. But personally, I've grown up in Ireland. There are plenty of sheep, so I grew up around sheep, and I thought I knew everything about sheep, and I knew, of course, that sheep were sort of cute, but they're also very vulnerable, and they can be, if they're attacked by a dog or any other wild animal, that they will not fight back. And also they're difficult to corral, because if you try to drive them ahead of you, if you have 100 sheep, they'll probably run in about 100 different directions. So for that reason, in Ireland, if we're moving sheep from one pasture to another, we usually have a couple of dogs, and because you need somebody who is fast, and the dogs can sort of round them up and sort of usher them along very well. So it's sort of neat to see when you see that happening. Anyway, the bottom line is, I always felt I knew about sheep, and also that because of the fact that sheep are so vulnerable and so innocent looking, you can see why they receive quite mention, not just in this gospel reading Sunday, but also Psalm 23, and also Ezekiel chapter 34. It's all about sheep and shepherds. But several years ago, I thought I knew everything about sheep, and shepherds. But in 1986, I was on a trip to Israel with a group of people, and we're driving along in a bus, and I was looking out the window of the bus, and way off in the distance, I saw a figure of a man in a long gown with a staff in his hand, walking along, and about 20 sheep walking behind him. And I'd never seen that before in my life, where the sheep is actually following the shepherd. So, needless to say, it opened my eyes, and it led me to do a little bit of research, and sort of to ask yourself the question, for me, if I went away into a field of sheep, that run off rather than they would not in any way follow me. So what is the trick here? Well, obviously, what I learned was that what really works is the shepherd grows up with the sheep. He knows them from the time they were born. He knows them, and they know him. He takes care of them. If they're sick or anything, he sort of nurses them back to health. Also, each sheep would have a name, and shepherds usually they whistle, and they have a certain whistle for the different sheep. So a sheep can call a sheep to himself rather easily. So the whole idea of a shepherd walking along and the sheep walking behind him is just part and parcel of that kind of culture. And the key to the whole thing, of course, is that the shepherd knows the sheep, and the sheep knows the shepherd. And because of that, the sheep and the shepherd develop an ongoing relationship. The relationship is there, and it's because of that relationship that the sheep follow him. And like if you look at Psalm 23, of course, the Lord is my shepherd. It's basically saying the same thing. So for that reason, I think there is such a thing as Good Shepherd Sunday, because the relationship of Jesus and of the sheep to the shepherd, at the end of the day, I suppose that should be our relationship with the Lord himself. That is, you can be quite sure that he knows each of us in a very personal way. And I think the challenge in life is that to know him and to follow him, not just as individuals, but also as a group. And so that's the challenge. I think the challenge first of all, to keep in mind that the relationship factor, number one, and certainly in order to have that relationship, we need to know the shepherd. We need to know him intimately, and that really is what the scripture is telling us: is that we need to know Jesus Christ intimately, and we know that Jesus is present in the Eucharist, but in order to appreciate that presence of the Lord in the Eucharist, we first need to know him in a very personal way. So that is my take really from Sunday's Gospel, that the sheep and shepherds become one. They are one. It's all about at the end of the day, it's all about relationship, and if that relationship is healthy, then the follow-up is equally healthy, and hopefully we learned a lot from the sheep and the shepherd in terms of how we deal with the Lord on an ongoing basis. Thank you.